Dave Palumbo here with Chris the Technician Aceto for an RxMuscle news update. Chris, the Olympia is less than 5 weeks from today. There's a lot of buzz in the 212 division right now. I wanted to talk about it. You know, Flex Lewis has been the most dominant champion we've seen in recent years, especially in the history of the 212 division. The question remains, can anyone beat him? I had Bader Badai on the show yesterday, and he's saying that Ahmad Ashakanani is the best he's ever been. He cleaned house at the Arnold. No one can beat him, and he feels that he is the best hope to beat Flex Lewis. First, let's start off by talking about Flex Lewis. What makes him such a dominant champ?
He's round. You know, I mean, he's tall. That helps. He's broad. That helps. He's round. That helps. His conditioning is very good. So those combinations of height, width, roundness, and very good condition consistently, you know, makes him hard to beat. You know, he doesn't have things that dominate people. You know, he doesn't dominate people on that most muscular. I mean, his abs and thighs is hard to remember. His front lat spread is not dominant. His side, you know, the side tricep, he does it straight on. It's not even a side tricep. You know, his back lat spread doesn't have tons of width. And those are the criticisms. You know, I started out with the strengths. Those strengths override, you know, the smaller criticisms. And, you know, when he's up against other people, you know, he's beatable. He is beatable. And I've seen him, me personally, I've seen him get beat at shows in my mind. But if he's 100% on, he's very dangerous. Just like a lot of people, you know, like Phil. I would love to sit here. I know we're talking about 212s and say Phil is vulnerable. I've seen Phil vulnerable, but as a whole, you know, he nails it more than he doesn't nail it. And I would say Phil's less vulnerable than Flex, but you know, Flex has some vulnerabilities.
Well, Flex reminds me of of a small version of Dorian Yates. I mean, he's got that grainy, hard, nasty, gnarly muscle. You know,
dude, wait. He's not grainy. So let's back up.
But I think he is grainy. I think he gets grainy. You know,
he's watery, if anything else. I mean, he's separated in full. I don't think anyone's ever. I wouldn't even say he thinks he's grainy. I think Neil Hill wouldn't say he's grainy.
I disagree. I think he gets grainy. I've seen him off. Now, when he's off, he doesn't look like that. I agree with you. He looks separated, but he doesn't have the graininess. But, you know, Johnny's got a picture up there. He's pretty fucking gnarly. If you look at those glutes and the hamstrings and the lower back, I mean, he's got to be on, though. You know, and I think that's an important thing for Flex. He is beatable when he's not on. The question is, can anyone beat him? Ahmad Ashakanani was second last year. He won the Arnold Classic this year. The Camel Crew is billing him as the next 212 Mr. Olympia. Will that happen this year, Chris? And what are his strengths and weaknesses?
His strengths is back width. His drawback is height. You know, he really doesn't have any separation at all in his legs. His legs are, I mean, Johnny, you can throw up pictures. I mean, his legs are nothing to, you know, to write home about. They're weak. You know, of course, he's got the hamstring from the side, but Del Rosa told me that they put a little hamstring magic.
Are they jimmying up his hamstrings?
Yeah, well, his biceps are certainly jimmied up.
Yeah, so that, I mean, obviously, you know, when you don't.
I mean, so that aside, you know, he's got a great side chest. He's got a great most muscular. He reeks. I know it's ridiculous, but he reeks of likability. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. You know,
I mean, there's nobody who's going to say anything bad about him. That doesn't help in the judging, but I'm just saying, you know, he's a genuine guy. He's got a fabulous front lat spread. You know, I give that to him as well. His ab shot is good. His side tricep is pretty damn impressive as well. I'm trying to go through it, and of course the back lat spread is fabulous. The back lat spread is really good. You know, he's dangerous, but I would say this: he's not 50% a bodybuilder. You know, I mean, we all know that last year at the Arnold, let's say, you know, if you boiled the show down to two people with weak legs, his legs aren't as good as David Henry's, and neither is his back as freaky as David Henry's on the back double bicep, I think. So. The vulnerability with Ahmed is that his legs are weak. You know, I'm sure he's been killing him to, bring him up, and maybe he has. So, he'll be in the mix for sure. I mean, he won the Arnold. I mean, how can you not say he's not going to be in the mix? He was second in his first year out.
Now, Chris, if we analyze Ahmad versus Jose Raymond, a lot of people would be saying, and I'm sure the whole team out there in Oxygen Gym would say that Jose's washed up, he's too old, Ahmad has put him in the rearview mirror. Obviously, you're working with Jose. What will we see from Jose at the Olympia this year?
I mean, he'll be at his best. If you put up, I thought Jose arguably could have beaten Flex in 2014 with Eduardo Correa. I don't think either one of them demolished Flex by any means, but that was a 3-person show, and of course, 2 of those guys I was helping, and they put a lot of pressure on Flex. The following year, 15, right? Jose upped the ante even more and was at his all-time best. After 15, Jose has had continual knee issues. That affected his training immensely. Immensely, in terms of what he was able to do and not to do. He had surgery for that knee, and I would say his legs are, very, very improved, if not radically improved, from the 2016 season. If you look at the legs from 2016 to 2015, they're not the same legs, and they're radically better now. So his front double, front lat spread is far better because they with bigger legs, of course, you're going to have a bigger X frame. A more impressive front lat spread, a more impressive back lat spread. Everything counts, right? If you have thin legs, for example, let's take the opposite. If your legs are skinny, you look like you're going to tip over, and you look like you lack balance. So his legs are up. He's dense. You saw pictures. I mean, you saw his back double bicep that I think Johnny posted up, like that Franco Arnold comparison to Rami, and I mean, look at that. Look at, if you want to talk backs, look at Jose's back in that picture. And, we know how fast Jose changes. That was a couple weeks ago. He's radically better now than he was 2 weeks ago. So, his weight is indicative that he's on par to be tremendous. His condition, the way he looks, is on par at this point to indicate that he's going to be tremendous. He's definitely going to be extremely dangerous at this show. Other people will be, I'm sure, as well, but I haven't seen other people. I see Jose every, couple times a week. And, he is, he's ready. He's not ready today. I wouldn't say he's ready to go on the stage today, but that's why there's still time left.
Well, Rami's ready. Rami's going to be ready Saturday, according to Beta.
Well, Phil Heath ain't ready yet either. Roden's not ready. Cedric's not ready. There's something to be said for, when I'm flying a plane, Dave, from Miami to Portland, Maine, I don't want to, as the captain, I don't want to tell you, Dave, as you're sitting next to me as we're flying over Manhattan, we're ready to land in Portland now. You look at me and say, we still got another 350 miles. We're going to crash this thing if we're ready to land now.
Let's talk about, I'm eating a potato chip from Mr. G. Rob Smalley and George Smalley. Mr. G makes these new protein coated chips called Mr. Potts. He sent me a whole, here's the bag.
I can't chew gum, Dave. You don't let me chew gum on the air, and you get to eat potato chips.
I'm chewing chips. They're delicious. Check them out. They're going to be in all these stores. I think ShopRite's going to start carrying them. Mr. Potts chips. Delicious. Let's talk about David Henry. Because David Henry, former 202 Olympia champ, the only guy in the lineup other than Flex Lewis that's won an Olympia. Let's face it, this guy is getting better and better and better. We know what the knock on him is. The legs are not as big as the upper body. Chris, a lot of people felt at the Arnold Classic that David Henry should have won. What's your take on Henry, and where does he stack up in this lineup of guys we just spoke about?
If you're Jose Raymond, if you're Flex Lewis, And if you're Ahmad Ashakanani and if you don't take David Henry serious, you are an idiot. Because David Henry is incredibly dangerous and has always been incredibly dangerous. At the Olympia last year, I was dumbfounded. He was dangerous. If you look at the lineup last year, he was blazing full and hard in that show. He was round. He looked crazy. And you know what? I saw David Henry after prejudging, and I could tell he was just like lost. He was lost. I don't know if he was lost mentally or if he was pissed. I've never talked to Dave Henry, and I said, "You looked ridiculous. Ridiculous."
Yeah.
So some of these shows, Dave, the Arnold judging panel might be different than the Olympia judging panel, and we know that certain judges have different criteria in their mind in terms of, what's competitive and what deserves to be in the top 1, 2, 3, 4 places. And that might be a reason why that David Henry was, quote, low at the Olympia and really high at the Arnold. But, if I was competing in the show, I would be worried about David Henry all day long.
Yeah. Now
just as I would be worried about, everyone else we've already talked about. But, he's just someone who's off the radar always for people. He's like a rodent. People like, David will be like top 7 this year. I'm like, top 7? You know what I mean? He doesn't get, David Henry does not get the respect.
No. And he should, because he's very dangerous. What about Milan Shadik? We talked about him as being a very dangerous 212 guy, because it seems like it's the same guys up there every year. Obviously, Ahmad Ashakanani was a surprise last year, the dark horse. Can Milan Shadik be the dark horse in this year's 212 Olympia, you think?
I think he's a top, first call out guy.
Yeah.
First round call out guy, because he's got high, his conditioning is better than Flex's. Yeah. If you want to talk gnarly, he doesn't have the roundness that Flex has, and his height is a little bit too much for his muscle size. In other words, he is a little bit too, he may look thinnish next to the guys we just mentioned, only because of the height, so the contrast. But in terms of when he's on deep, crazy, detailed muscle separation and hardness, I think he's grainy type guy when he's at his best. I think David Henry is a grainy type guy. I don't think Flex Lewis, no offense, is a grainy type of guy. His physique is, fully Flex, capable of winning a game. But I just don't put him in the category of like grainy.
Yeah, I don't think Flex Lewis loses this show. I think. Although I think Milan Shadik is going to be a surprise in the lineup. What about I see Eduardo Correa in the lineup? We haven't seen him all year on a stage, but
he's not in the lineup.
He's not in the lineup because I see him on the list. So I guess he's not doing it.
No.
What happened? He injured himself again?
Yeah. Well, he's coming back to that greenhouse up in Maine, I hear.
Well,
that's all I got, Dave. I'm just in Maine. I don't have a team. I just, 30 years of living in Maine and just pounding them out.
We're doing an RxMuscle news update here. Let's talk about this Correa with the sling on. Now, he had torn his bicep before, didn't he?
He tore his tricep years ago.
Tricep, right.
Eduardo Correa, another guy who definitely could have won 212 or 202 Olympias, maybe more than once. The interesting thing about his tricep, he had in 2014, for people who don't know it, 2013, he had a major injury 2 weeks out. He didn't train at all for 2.5 weeks running into the Olympia. He still did the Olympia, and he got 4th or 5th. No training at all for 2.5 weeks. And that was a show I used to tell people, the heartache with that is that would have been his best.
Yeah.
He only prepared for like 5 months for the Olympia the next year, and that was, of course, the Olympia 2014, where, Johnny put up a most muscular from 2014. If you want to see grainy, 2014 when he was second,
yeah, he was.
That was, stupendous.
Well, he was always one of the most conditioned guys up on that stage. That was his thing. his knock is that he's too tall for the division. Really, is what it amounts to. Let's not neglect the elephant in the room. No pun intended. Big Ramy. Johnny snagged a video that was leaked a little earlier today that was put up and then it was taken down. It was like a live stream from the Oxygen Gym. Big Ramy taking his clothes off in front of Chris Cormier, Beta Badai, and the whole Camel crew over there. If you see them in the video. I know you've seen the video. A lot of people have said to me, this cannot be a recent video because there's no way Ramy's in shape here. What kind of conditioning are you seeing from Ramy? I mean, you've worked with him before. Is he off here? I mean, he looks off to me.
Well, I mean, the second elephant in the room, we have to make believe that last year didn't happen. That, Ramy's name is Big Ramy. It's not Sliced Ramy, like Eduardo Super Sliced Correa. So, I mean, he's known to be big, and that is our expectation. That's I think what's going to happen is he's going to come into the Olympia big, and I mean, meaning, if you contrast it with last year, he beat Dexter 2 or 3 times last year. He beat Roden a couple times last year. I mean, he hadn't beaten these people really previously. I know he was 212 pounds at the prejudging last year. And I'm being facetious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for all intent and purposes, you can put up the finals last year. He was, he was second place there for sure.
Yeah, or maybe first. Yeah, maybe first. Chris, is it true that Ramy's been contacting you behind the scenes?
I spoke to him when I was in Tampa.
Sure.
He WhatsApped me. Ramy. There's always drama connected with Ramy. For a guy who doesn't say anything, there's a lot of drama around him, whether it be the drama of this year, the drama of switching coaches, Dennis James being vilified as some nincompoop who knows nothing, to, I mean, how many people have I helped? The list is like insane, and suddenly I know nothing.
Yeah.
Is
Ramy and the Ramy camp concerned that 5 weeks out maybe he's not going to be ready? I know Beta Badai is not worried, but I'm talking about the behind the scenes aspect.
I don't ask because I don't want to know, because I don't want to. I don't ask, Dave, because I don't want to know, because I don't. As Chad Nichols said, this is going to be the year that no one is to blame.
Well,
right?
Johnny, you have those pictures I sent you of Aceto that Chris sent me when he was working with Aceto? We'll see if we can pull those up. Last year, he was obviously noticeably lighter at this point in time, Chris. What was he weighing about 5 weeks out last year?
I don't know, 290, 280. I don't know. Because I don't go by weight.
I know, but you still you track that type of stuff. So he was well under 300 pounds at this point out.
Yeah,
and he looked like his conditioning was exquisite. Now, a lot of people, felt that it was, and I myself included, that this was the best look Ramy had. Yeah, granted, he was a little flat at prejudging, but obviously by the night show, he was back to being Big Ramy with conditioning. We all want to see Big Ramy, like you said, on stage at his biggest, but is that going to be his best? And I know Chad Nichols has been critical of it. I know you've been critical of it, saying that if Big Ramy comes in over 300, he's going to be out of shape. Do you still stick by that?
I stick by this. He's got to be in shape.
Right. Can he be in shape at 310 pounds?
Was Coleman?
Nope.
Okay. Can we collectively make an agreement? There's a lot of great bodybuilders, Arnold, Jay, Dorian, Sean Ray, Levrone. You can go through a list of like tremendous bodybuilders. Can we collectively make an agreement that probably on the whole Coleman was the freakiest there's been?
Absolutely.
Did he come in? What was his weight on stage?
Probably 292, I think was his highest.
He taller or shorter than Ramy?
I believe they're the same height.
Oh, are they the same height?
They might be. What is Rami? How tall is he?
Oh, 5'9", 5'10".
He's probably a little, maybe an inch shorter than Coleman.
Okay. So, I mean, as Sergio Oliva would say, math counts.
Here's the pictures. Johnny's got the pictures that you sent me up from last year with striated glutes at 6 weeks out. He's showing a lot of detail in his body. Was this before the Olympia, Chris?
Yeah, like a few days before the Olympia.
Okay, all right.
But I mean, those aren't quasi-striated glutes; those are etched out.
Yeah, no, this is. I was going to say he looks way more conditioned than 6 weeks out here, but this is showing a lot of lower back detail that we don't really see from Rami. Obviously, this is before you carved him up. You can see he's like a little on the flat side, but he's showing tremendous amount of detail in his physique. Should this be the way he looks now, or is this too soon to look this way?
Which way?
Shredded.
Well, it don't matter. You know what? It don't matter. I always tell people there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, right? I mean, I'll tell you what. Sean Roden was a fat pig 7 weeks out this year. He's going to be peeled out of his brains on show day.
Okay.
So the fact of the matter is, somebody could, post up a picture of Sean Roden 7 weeks out, and they'd say that's not a real picture. And I have no concern in my fiber of any part of my being that he's not going to be peeled.
Yeah, well, because you're torturing him, I'm sure, right about now.
Torture.
Let me ask you for a prediction. I know you're not a man of predictions. Will Sean Roden beat Big Ramy at the Olympia?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Will Phil Heath win the Olympia again in your estimation?
He's dangerous as hell.
Yeah.
I wish I could say no. Phil and Beta have equally thin skin. But even though their skin is thin, they've you know what I mean. You got to compliment. You got to compliment Beta on what he still helps people, right? You know what I mean. I mean, people who in his gym absolutely love him, and because he supports them.
Right.
And Phil might have the thinnest skin we've ever seen of anyone in bodybuilding, but either Phil's going to come out. Watch this. Phil's going to come out a little off or the same, and if he's the same, he's dangerous as hell. But you never know with Phil. I mean, he's such a genetic wonder. He might. I hope he doesn't, but he might up his game again. He might be more peeled. You know what I mean? He might be like, who knows?
You know what? He's at a point now, Chris, where he's going for number 7, which is a significant win on his part. It would be just as 8 would, and just as 9 would. I think he's more excited now. He sees like the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
I agree.
And I think he's putting more into it because he's getting a little older now. And I think he's actually trying harder now, which makes him more dangerous when he does.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's like, what are you going to criticize him on, really? That his taper was better 4 years ago. Yeah, it was. So what? Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't. I mean, you can't keep. No Olympian, Dave, has kept their V taper through their reign.
Maybe Haney.
Dorian didn't. He had a crazy V taper, and it went to kaput towards the end.
What about Haney?
Well, that was pre-chemical warfare. So it happened to Coleman. Jay got a wider waist, and Phil got a wider waist. Yeah. So the only knock you have on these Olympian winners is that their V taper, got worse. So from a purist point, we kind of like them better earlier in their career, but I mean, all those guys continually added muscle throughout their career.
Right. Johnny's putting up a picture of, I think this might be Phil's first show. We're looking at he still looks pretty dead. I wouldn't want to compete against Phil at his first show at my best. That's how good he was.
Listen, what is that? Like what was he doing? The Denver show?
Yeah.
Listen, the Denver look would have won the super heavy in the USA this year. I'm serious. He looks wacky.
Yeah. You can just tell he's got the great genetic. He looks like a basketball player still here. He looks like Michael
Or
Jordan.
maybe it
right
was
there.
like by the fourth show. Before he even got to the USA, there was some pictures that some people had sent me recently.
Yeah.
And, they're impressive. So, I mean, you can't just, Phil was Phil. I mean, he's the reigning champ. It's like Flex, the reigning champ. They have the advantage of, having been there, known how to win. They know, they know they can fiddle with their looks too, right? The fact is, a lot of people can't fiddle with their looks, Dave. If someone comes in less peeled than previous, they say, "Oh, we liked you. We had you second, or third, or fourth because you're not peeled like you were last year." Whereas, Phil has the luxury of coming in. If he's bigger, we're gonna say Phil was even bigger.
Yeah.
Even if he was softer.
Yeah.
And if Flex is bigger, we say biggest Flex has ever been, even if he's softer. But if both of them are crazy peeled, we say, you know what? They went for lights out condition.
Right.
So they do get a lot of the benefit. There is that benefit that they have, benefit of the doubt, where, the people challenging them don't have that luxury.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. In less than 5 weeks, what's going to happen? 212 division is going to be a real super battle up there. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe almost more than the open division for that matter. But the Big Ramy story never seems to die. It just keeps going on and on. The excitement is building. Everyone wants to see what Big Ramy will bring to the stage. If we're going to make the prediction based on what we saw today leaked out of Oxygen Gym, things don't look so great. But once again, we don't have confirmation that video was actually from today. Chris,
well, we can date it by when Cormier arrived.
Well, Cormier's there, so I don't know. Cormier's been there the whole season, so it's hard to tell. Chris, enjoy your little stay out in Miami, Florida this coming weekend, I should say. What do you guys planned? What do you guys got planned?
I am going to go between the chair that I'm sitting in and 100 yards to the beach
Good.
day for the next 2.5 weeks.
All right, good. You need a little R&R. Got to get yourself all juiced up for the Olympia. No pun intended, of course. And we'll see the whole RxMuscle crew out there in mid-September. For now, I'm Dave Palumbo with Chris, the technician, Aceto, for another edition of RxMuscle News Update. We'll see you next time.